Today we're talking about the difference between the old Vettec cartridge, the 160cc, and the new 210cc cartridge. There are some very significant differences between these, aside from there being 30% more material in this one. So we're going to look at those one by one. First, we're going to look at the openings on the two cartridges and compare those. Okay, with the two cartridges now opened, you can see a significant difference in the size of the ports. So the 210 has a much larger dispensing port, and what that really means is that the materials are going to flow much more readily. It's going to be easier and faster to dispense. With the 160 size cartridge, we used to get a fair number of complaints about hand fatigue. And that's just because there's a lot of hydraulic pressure required to push it through such a small opening. So the larger ports really are a lot easier on the hands, and the material flows a lot better. The additional advantage is that these larger ports, they're much more separated from each other, and because they're larger, they don't get clogged nearly as easily as the 160 size cartridge. The mix tip and its attachment represents probably the greatest improvement between these two systems. The 160 system was a pretty simple attachment. The tip was held on by these two tabs, and it was simply a quarter turn to attach the tip. There were really three problems with this. First of all, the mix tip didn't seal very well, and so sometimes there would be leakage around the tip attachment during dispensing. And then secondly, the materials were able to mingle right here without being fully mixed, but eventually they would set and clog those small openings, especially if the tip were left on for any length of time. The third thing that was a disadvantage to this is that if the horse happened to jerk during dispensing, it was quite easy to snap that and possibly break the tip. And so there was a lot of room for improvement to this, and every one of those things was addressed in the development of the new cartridge. So the new cartridge has the advantage of first having an indexed mixing tip, and if you notice these grooves that are molded into the cartridge, they correspond with the grooves on these tabs on the mixing tip. And so that means you can only install the mixing tip one way. You can't install it incorrectly, which is a nice feature. Secondly, the extensions on this mix tip actually fit down inside the ports. And so when the mix tip is attached, it's pretty well sealed, so you're not going to get any leakage at all. The larger ports also are separated, and so they're further apart, and with the extension of these fitting down into that, you cannot cross-contaminate and clog the two sides. The final thing that is really great about this system is this locking collar. So the collar slides over the mix tip with a quarter turn. It's locked on, so this can't break off. It can't come unattached. So all of the problems that existed with the old 160 system have been addressed, and it makes it much better for the user, much cleaner, much better for mixing and storage as well. So when it's time to store the cartridge, again, this 210 system has really proven why it's the state of the art, because the storage cap, just like the mix tip, is also indexed, and it fits on the same way and really seals the cartridge very effectively. With the locking collar in place, now that's the best way to ensure the shelf life of the product. So to summarize, we've got a cartridge that is 30% more material. We've got a foolproof mixing tip attachment which seals very well and is locked on with the collar. We've got larger dispense ports which allow easier flow, less hand fatigue. and we've got a great way to seal the cartridge and store it so that we ensure the shelf life. So we're going to say bye-bye to the 160 and hello 210.